All right, what up, everybody? What up, everybody? What up, everybody? Let me get to the spot. Oh, we are still here at the office. This is Playing Your Greatness, and I'm your gracious host, Carlton Hamilton. We are on video number 5 of the Events of Our Lives series. And again, the theme of this video series is the events of our lives. They heavily define us, influence us, shape us, mold us, but however, they do not control us. All right, so let's get right into it. All right, we're going to get a little cerebral here for a second. All right, understand that your brain is the storage area for everything that we have experienced in our lifetime. Now, I don't know how far they go back at inception, as far as when that cognition, I haven't done the research to say when does cognition actually begin, but once it begins, your brain holds on to that information. Okay, unless, unless you've been altered by drugs or an accident or something like that, that's a whole different story. But if you're just a regular, normal person, your brain stores every life thought, emotion, feeling, choice, behavior, and experience. Now, here's what's even more powerful about that, which is what I want to get at. That every one of those thoughts, emotions, feelings, choices, behaviors, and experiences, it is also connected to an emotional experience. And in a lot of cases, an elevated emotional experience. Now, if it was so elevated, like a couple of the things that happened to me in my life when I was a kid, every time you bring it up, you go right back to that spot because your emotions were so elevated, so high at that age. And every time you brought it up, it deepened the impression and it made that memory more significant than others, right? You follow me? All right, so we have these three points in our life. Now, I'm not some neurologist. I'm not some psychiatrist. I'm basing more or less on this, on kind of some reading and some information that I've come across, is we have these 3 points in our lives. We have the age 13, we have the age 25, and we have the age 35. Now, what I've come to understand is everything from birth up until 13 creates a very powerful image, because once you get to be 13, you become highly aware of you and the world and where you place. All right. Now, then there becomes, and that's a 13-year window. All right. So then you have this 12-year window from 13 to 25 to where you're stacking on top of what you just locked in at 13. Now, here's what's interesting. Insurance companies, they do a calculation which is called the law of large numbers. And that number, that formula says that we can spread our risk amongst everybody, which brings insurance companies to a particular rate. And what's fascinating about that is the number where I think you can rent a rental car for the most part, because your rates are lower, your risk is lower, and when you are going to get insurance, once you hit that age of 25, your insurance rate drops significantly if you're a good driver. Because the law of large numbers says that by the time you're 25, your driving habits are pretty set. So I'm basing that number on saying that if your driving habits are pretty set, your personality is now pretty set at 25. All right. So then we have a 10-year window from 25 to 35 to say that, and I've heard a neuroscientist say that at 35, we pretty much have everything locked in. And that brings to light a difference. The reason why I believe the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have such opposing views. Because if it's correct that at the age of 35, the ways that you perceive the world are pretty set, the Republican Party tends to be an older party. So they're pretty set. Whether they're wrong or right, they're set in how they see the world and how things impacting on them. And then the Democratic Party tends to be younger, so they're more open and they're more malleable, and they're still making changes and adjustments and figuring out who they are. Okay. Now here's what's interesting with that. Okay. From that, if you're so set in your ways, then this is where it becomes a challenge. You can either be a victim or a leader in your life, but you can't be both. And why is that? Because if you're a victim, you do not see control over your life and your personal reality, which comes from what was said at 13, 25, 35, that creates your personality, which is what you think, how you feel, and then how you act. And then those things projected onto the world create your, like a screen. It creates your personal reality, which is how you see the world and how you see your ability to influence that world. I've said this before, and I'm making this very clear. Your personality is what you think, how you feel, and how you act. Your personal reality is an accumulation of all those things, and then it gives you a picture of the world. And then you go and specifically tell yourself, do you have control over that world? And if your answer is no, you see yourself as a victim. A leader then looks and says, wow, if I controlled everything up until this point, I have the ability to control things moving forward. All right. Now, the understanding is from that point is, if you want to make a change, you need to have a clear vision of what do you want, why you want it, and can you see it in your mind's eye before it appears into the world. This is basically the theme of the Plan Your Greatness book. And that's how I came up with those 3 questions. Because originally the title of the book was 3 questions. What do you want? Why do you want it? And can you actually see it in your mind? Because I guarantee you, there is not one successful person on this planet who has not asked themselves this question directly or indirectly. In most cases, most people ask those questions directly. What do I want? Now, why do I want it? I have an emotional, I want this for my mom, or I want to, save money so my daughter can go to college. That's an emotional, elevated response to the why. And then now you go out and say, okay, that's what I want, and I'm going to make sure that my daughter has it. Then I'm going to see the things that I need to see to make sure that this becomes a reality. All right. Now, and I just mentioned that why has to have, it's unequivocal. There's no negotiating, no compromise. That why has to have an elevated emotional attachment to it, or you're going to get up and what I've said before, then your philosophy has to be higher than your feelings. Because think about it. If your goal says that I need to get up every day, which I do, every day between 4 and 4:30 a.m. to get my day started, but you get up one morning and you didn't quite get enough sleep, or the day before was just, it wasn't on, and you just not feeling it, what are you going to do? You're going to pull those covers right over your head. Now, let me let you in on something that happened the other day. Since the beginning of summer, I started getting myself back in shape. All right. So that required me to look around and say, what time of the day can I get this done? Wasn't in the evening. I realized that I was too exhausted. Wasn't in the middle of the day. That's too inconsistent. Things tend to come up. I said, the only time available is in the morning. So I started getting up at 6. Then it went to 5:30. Then it went to 5:15, 5, 4:45, 4:30, 4:15, 4 o'clock. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning because there's nobody up. I get to get in and do all the things, listen to whatever I want to listen to, meditate, do everything I need to do to prepare for the day, work out, whatever, set the tone for my day. And one morning, I got up, my alarm went off, I got up and I pulled the covers off of my right hand and I wasn't feeling it. Come on. Camera, come on. Camera. Get back. I got this great story and you just losing focus. All right. So I pull the covers off. Oh, and I'm tired. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to get up. And so I grabbed the blankets and I put them back over. You know what happened? Unconsciously, my arm pulled the blankets back up and I jumped out of bed and I just stood there. And I went like, whoa! I was like, what the hell just happened? And then because of all the things that I've been doing lately and things that I've been reading, I knew exactly what happened is. There was what I call a cycle of the mind-body connection. I had been doing this for so long. It was in my mind first, and then it became things I needed to do with my body. I physically needed to get up in the morning, work out, do this, plan my day. So it became a habit. And so when my body tried to reject it, I had too much habit-forming behavior. My body was like, get that blanket off there and get out of bed. I mean, literally, I threw the blanket off and I jumped out of the bed and I stood there and I was like, whoa. And I was so proud of myself because it just deepened the impression and it solidified that if you work very hard in your mind, you then have something physical that's connected to it. You have a why to get up in the morning because I needed to do all the things so I would have time later on to make the videos. I would have time later on to work out. I would have the afternoons free to pick my kids up from school, take them to work and do all the things like that. So if I got up and did my things earlier in the day, I was accessible later on in the day. That was very important to me. And my body showed me, brother, get up out that bed because you made a mental promise to yourself, and then you now done trained your body to respond it, and my body did. I was so proud of myself. All right, so here's my challenge to you. Okay, my challenge is to ask yourself, are you a victim or are you a leader? Do you feel you have absolute 100% control over where your life is going? Be honest with yourself, because I'm telling you that you do. You may not see it, but I'm telling you what to do. And if you called me for some coaching or something like that, and I sat with you, we would just break down everything, and then we would finally get to the point where, and this is what usually happens, we finally get to the point where it's just undeniable that you have control over your life. But now you have to make the decision. Are you going to take action, or are you still going to just say, well, I see it, I realize I have control, but I'm not going to do anything anyway? All right, so there's your challenge. This is Plan Your Greatness, and I'm going to say this again. Plan your greatness. Why? Because no one else will. I'll see you next time.